Good afternoon to all and welcome. I'm Suresh Iyengar and I'm a business advisor for North Central Texas Small Business Development Center, the leading provider of assistance for small businesses. We are grant funded, which allows us to offer services at no cost to you, the business owner or entrepreneur. Today's webinar is titled Hiring Smart by our presenter, CJ Ballinger. Here's a quick reminder, we will be recording this webinar and then adding it to our YouTube channel. Today's webinar will be interactive, so please feel free to raise your hand, which is the small button at the bottom, if you have a question or comment. Again, our presenter today is CJ Ballinger. CJ started her career with Texas Workforce Commission in unemployment claims, and over the years has served businesses in employee relations, recruitment, and safety. She started My HR Consulting in 2012 to focus on serving small businesses. She is a certified senior HR professional, SPHR, graduated from St. Mary's University with an MBA, and is an OSHA authorized instructor. Her workshops include HR tools and tips designed for small businesses. Welcome, CJ. Please take it over.
Thank you so much, Suresh. I appreciate that. And I hope everyone is doing well and had a terrific holiday weekend. I know sometimes I need a holiday to recover from a holiday. So I hope everyone is doing well and ready to learn. I just want to throw out that I'm not just a presenter, I'm also a customer. When I started my small business, I reached out to my local SBDC, and my advisor has been such a blessing and has helped me with my business to grow my business. We've been in business for 10 years now, so her help has been invaluable in the process of that. And I encourage you, if you don't have an advisor, if you're not a client, to sign up, and it's paid for by your tax dollars. So there, I said my spiel. For I don't give out my advisor's name anymore because then everybody wanted to book with her. So I just want to say that too. Anyways, today we're going to talk about hiring smart. How do you hire legally as a small business? What I've found in working with small businesses is that sometimes what small businesses are most afraid of, they really don't need to be afraid of at all. And then there are some pitfalls that are common with small businesses that you that you want to be aware of. So that's what I'm trying to do today, is to educate you as a small business what to keep an eye out for as far as your legal risk, managing your business, and managing your employees. So let's talk about what do's and don'ts, which ones matter, which ones don't, what are some common pitfalls, and then last but not least, what are some tips and tools for you as a small business to hire and retain employees in a way that's affordable, legal, and not time consuming? How about that? We're going to talk about regulations. We're going to talk about some key policies. Also, I'd like to let you know that at the end of the presentation, be happy to send out a copy of the slides. If you just contact the SBDC, they'll do that for you. But also, I've got some checklists that you might be interested in. And so feel free to reach out for the slide deck or the handouts that go with it. So let's get started. You already have my background information. My disclaimer is that I'm not an attorney. I can't give legal advice. I can just tell you what my experience has been over the last 25 plus years. working in HR with small businesses. So here's a big news flash. A lot of small businesses are afraid of getting sued for discrimination. And in fact, the threshold for Title VII, which is the big EEO law, starts at 15 employees. So if you're a micro business, say you've got 5 employees, 10 employees, this is not going to be your biggest your biggest legal worry. Same thing with the ADA, which is discrimination against disability. That starts at 15 employees. Age discrimination, 20. COBRA, 20. FMLA, 50. The Affordable Care Act, 50. 50 full-time employees, that is. And so if you fall somewhere in between here, then several of these laws may not apply to your particular small business. But so then why does it matter? Why even have this conversation? Here's why. Small businesses can still get sued. And even more so, good employees can make or break your business, especially if you've got customer-facing employees. They can make all the difference in whether or not you retain your clients, not just your employees. So keep that in mind. Let's talk about, though, what are some common regulations that apply to all businesses, no matter what size you are. And the biggest one is called FLSA. That's short for Fair Labor Standards Act. Doesn't matter what size you are, this applies to you. So what happens is that a lot of small businesses, to control their cost, they will put their employees on a salary. That makes a lot of sense because, you know, overtime is expensive, but sometimes it can come at you as a surprise. So it makes sense that you want to put your employees on a salary so you don't have to pay them overtime. But the FLSA says that your employees have to qualify to be salaried. In legal terms, it's called exempt, and hourly employees are called non-exempt. Your employees have to have a job that qualifies to have a salary. And so what you can do is look up an actual checklist and see, okay, do my employees have the kind of job that qualifies to be on salary? I can tell you that a lot of administrative employees have to be hourly. Usually, except for executive assistants. And so take a really close look at that. If you have a lot of your admin employees on a salary, go back, do your homework, and make sure that you don't have to pay them overtime for hours worked over 40. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the pitfalls section as well. Let's talk about audits. TWC and the IRS, they both conduct audits. And what is their favoriteest thing to audit is whether or not you're hiring employees as contractors or employees. It's so easy to trigger a TWC audit. And by the way, that's the Internal Revenue Service and Texas Workforce Commission. Let's say that you've got an employee that goes and files an unemployment claim. But wait, you hired them as a contractor. You tell TWC, you know what? They're a contractor. I give them a 1099 at the end of the year. And so I don't owe them unemployment. TWC will say, okay, what I'm going to need you to send me is your last 2 years worth of payroll records, your job descriptions, and detailed account of what these jobs do, all your jobs, not just this person. And sometimes you can end up owing back taxes and penalties all because somebody that you had hired as a contractor files an unemployment claim. So I have a checklist that TWC uses that you can use to be able to just go through, check. Does this position qualify as a contractor or an employee? There's no such thing as a contractor employee. It's contractor or employee. Workers' compensation. In the state of Texas, we are not required to have workers' compensation. That's the plus side, right? We don't have to carry extra insurance and be burdened with that. The downside is that employees can sue us if they get hurt on the job. Talk to your insurance agent. It could be pennies on the dollar that you would pay to get yourself covered. That way, if the unforeseen happens, then workers' comp kicks in as opposed to you in terms of paying for medical bills. I've included a link in the slide deck so that you can download another notice that is also required, and that is from the Texas Department of Insurance, where you have to notify your employees if they have coverage or not. And so you can click on the link and download this form and include it in your new hire checklist. But if you don't have workers' compensation, just check it out. See if it's affordable, because it could save you in a pinch. The Affordable Health Care Act. And so a lot of small businesses think, well, this applies if I have over 50 or more full-time employees, and it does. But all employers are required to tell their employees if they have coverage or not. And basically, it is a notice that's required by the Department of Labor that lets your employees know about the healthcare marketplace. So click on the link, download, and include that in your new hire packet. OSHA. OSHA requires employers with 10 or more employees to have an emergency action plan and a fire prevention plan. OSHA takes the guesswork out of it. They give you a template. You can click on the link, fill in the blank, and then that becomes your emergency action plan or your fire prevention plan. So it's worth taking a little extra time, because if you do work in an industry that tends to have injuries, OSHA could audit you and take a look and see, are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? So again, plug and play on the OSHA website. So this is my favorite subject, and I talked about this in the last session about HR solutions. It is so easy to confuse at will with right to work. At will is about employment contracts. Right to work is regarding unions. What happens with small businesses, because we're always thinking into the future, when we go to hire someone, we say, you know, this is what I can offer you for your first year, your first 6 months. If things go the way I think they go, then I may be able to, give you a raise. I may be able to give you a promotion. Those kinds of comments can be misconstrued as creating a contract with your new employee. You have to be very clear whether you're giving someone an offer letter, an employee handbook, an email, or even just talking about the future, that you're not promising future employment, because then somebody could come back and say, you know what, you told me that you're going to hire me for $12,000 a year, and then you laid me off after 6 months. I want the rest of my first year's salary that you promised me in my offer letter. So be careful about that. Make sure in what you give potential employees and future employees and current employees all says that you're an at-will employer and that you are not committing to an employment contract. If you have a contract, if you get your employees to sign a contract or an agreement, take a very close look at that, because not only are non-competes becoming illegal, but in the same process, you are destroying your at-will rights by having an agreement that can be construed as a contract. Take a good look at that, because a lot of small businesses like to create employment contracts. Here's the other issue that can cause concern: required posters. How do you know as a small business what's required? Is it required by the federal government, the state? So to take the guesswork out of it, TWC has provided free posters online. You print them, you post them. You don't need to spend $200 on a great big laminated poster. It probably includes laws that don't even apply to you. So go ahead and get my favorite price, which is free $99 for all the required posters from Texas Workforce Commission. Okay, so let's talk about employee handbooks. Do you need one? I'll cue the elevator music. Okay, the answer is no, you do not. They are best practice. They are ideal. They are not necessary. If you're starting your business, maybe you are looking to hire your first employee. You don't need to spend a lot of money on a full-blown employee handbook. But what you do need are well-written key policies, things that apply to your business in your industry, things that would come up most frequently when you're dealing with your employees. Just be consistent in your HR practices, how you manage your employees, and these key policies will work for you until you're big enough to take on that employee handbook. What are those key policies? Let me give you some ideas, and some of this you're going to have to kind of put some thought into it. One is a substance abuse policy. If you plan on drug testing your employees, you're gonna need to have a substance abuse policy. What happens is if you drug test someone without having a policy, without having their consent, then if they want to file some sort of claim against you or unemployment claim against you, they likely win unless you've got a substance abuse policy in place. So if you're going to drug test your employees, get that policy written up front. At the end of this session, I'll show you where you can grab a solid substance abuse policy and consent from TWC. It's free online. Attendance policy. Do you anticipate that you could have attendance issues, like employees either not showing up to work or showing up late? That's probably 90% of small businesses out there. But if you feel like that's going to be of concern, get yourself a solid attendance policy. Again, I'll show you where you can get one online for free. Company property, a safety policy. Are you going to reimburse employees? Are you going to give them a brand new laptop and let them use it for business? Those are all things that you need to think through and have policies to back them up. Here's why you're going to want to have a substance abuse policy. A lot of people think that drug-free workplace is the same thing as a substance abuse policy, and if they say we're a drug-free workplace, or they've got a poster that says we're a drug-free workplace, that they're covered. But that a good substance abuse policy will allow you to drug test upon hire, meaning before you hire someone, right? To do random drug tests, to do drug testing after a safety incident has happened, and reasonable suspicion. Let me give you an example of this very quickly. Once upon a time, there was a small business, and the owner had a just say no poster in the employee break room. One employee showed up all wonky, and several people observed it and felt like something was very suspicious. So the boss said, "Hey, you need to go take a drug test." The employee said, "No." The employer said, "Okay, you're fired." What happened? That employee went and filed a very expensive unemployment claim, and they won it because they did not have the proper policy in place. How did that story end? That ex-employee was serving time for dealing drugs, right? And so you have to just be aware that even though you feel really comfortable in making a decision to let someone go for reasonable suspicion or flunking a drug test, make sure you've got that policy in place before you do so. So what do you have? I'm throwing this mismatch of regulations at you. Keep it simple. Develop an orientation checklist for your new employees and put all the required forms on the checklist so you don't forget. Of course, you've got your I-9, which is due within 3 business days. You've got your W-4 for your withholding for the IRS. And then you've got your other key policies that are in place. Maybe it is substance abuse, attendance. Maybe you do have a handbook and you need to make sure your employees sign off on it. Making sure that you've got an at-will statement in your key policies. Also, you probably want to get a deduction authorization. If you're going to be deducting just about anything from the employee's check, you're going to need to have their signature. Again, at the end of this session, I'll show you where you can go grab one for free. The healthcare exchange notice, which we've talked about, and you've got the link for workers' compensation notice, which we've talked about. Develop your checklist and go from there. Just know that all of these are living documents. So if you find that you're missing a policy, you can add one and add it to your checklist. You can distribute it to your current employees, let them sign that they've received it. You can distribute it to your new hires, and then moving forward, you've got a solid foundation from which to spring from. So start with that checklist and just kind of build your way into it from there. And so let me ask you this. Why is it such a temptation for so many small businesses to hire people as contractors instead of W-2 employees? Take a look at this slide. What do you see? I see cha-ching, 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 right? That as the employer, ER means employer and EE means employee. As the employer, you're responsible for Social Security tax, Medicare tax, federal unemployment, and state unemployment. If you are a new employer, your SUTA is going to be set at 2.7. So you're responsible for a healthy dose of taxes from the get-go. And so it's very tempting to kind of skip paying the taxes and just hire someone as a contractor and let them be responsible for their own taxes. But again, that is a very common pitfall for small businesses. If you have improper classification of contractors and employees, it can cost a pretty penny. So once upon a time, a client of mine, before they were my client, they hired all of their employees as contractors. Everybody loved it. The contractors loved it because they made more money. The Employer loved it because they didn't have to pay taxes and all this reporting. But one person filed an unemployment claim. They went through a TWC audit and ended up owing several thousand in back taxes, penalties, and interest. It was a very expensive mistake. Sometimes it's so expensive, it can actually put a small business out of business. So pay attention to this. What you want to do is, and I put the dice on here because when you're rolling the dice, right? You're taking your chances if you get it wrong. What you want to do is use a checklist, and I have one that can be sent to you. I can show you where to grab one online and get the checklist and go through it and just point by point look and see, does somebody qualify to be a contractor? If they don't, by default, you're going to want to hire them as an employee, a W-2 employee. Don't roll the dice and take that chance. Also, what you don't want to roll the dice on is the salary. We talked about this earlier. What happens is that when you put someone on salary, and if they are owed overtime, they can file a wage claim, and the Department of Labor will go back 2 years. They will audit all your payroll records for the last 2 years and say, okay, were you properly classifying and properly paying your employees? So what is overtime? There's a lot of confusion about this. Some people move to Texas from California and they say, you know what, small business, you owe me overtime for any hours worked over 8 in a day. But that is a California law that is not in Texas, and it's not a federal either. What is in Texas, what is the federal law, which applies in Texas, is that employees are owed overtime, which is time and a half on their base rate for any hours worked over 40 in a work week. And so small businesses think, oh my goodness, how expensive is that? Because not only am I having to pay the hourly rate, I'm having to pay taxes, and now I'm going to have to pay time and a half on hours worked over 40. Keep in mind, work week. You determine your work week. So if you have a lot of employees that will tend to work overtime on the weekend, you can reset your work week. Maybe your work week goes from Tuesday through Monday. That will help you to be able to send employees home if they start bumping up to that 40 hours a week. Some small businesses think that by default that their work week has to flow from Saturday to Sunday. That's not true. You can have different work weeks for different groups of employees. You're just going to want to make sure that you define what your work week is and let your employees know. Also, take a look and see what you actually need to base your calculation on, because if you pay out bonuses, you may need to factor that into your overtime calculation. And if you have vacation, sick, paid time off benefits, be sure to specify whether or not those count towards overtime. Those are all little things that you could do to try and help manage your overtime cost without actually rubbing up against the FLSA regulation. Texas payday is an important piece of that puzzle. So at the federal level, you've got the Department of Labor, they manage FLSA, but Texas payday actually processes the wage claims in Texas through TWC. So if someone has a wage claim, they're going to file it with under the Texas payday law with TWC. Things that you're going to want to watch out for are illegal garnishments and deductions. In Texas, you're not allowed to garnish wages. In other states, you can. So if you're a multi-state small business, take a look and see what your rights are in the different states. But in Texas, garnishments are mostly illegal. And then be sure and get that deduction authorization signed. We talked about it earlier. I'm going to show you where you can get a copy of it for free. Have your employees sign it on day one and then get on with your business. Why do you have employees sign it on day one? Because on day one, employees will know to come in, do their new hire paperwork, and get everything signed and set up. If you try and come back 30 days later, 60 days later, they're going to question it. Why do you need me to sign this? So your best bet is, again, going back to that orientation checklist. Get that checklist made out, make it solid, and then make sure you're getting everything signed from the get-go so that you're covered. You can just get on with your life. So anyways, Texas Payday will process wage claims, and that includes any disputes over commissions or bonuses. If you do have commissions and bonuses, make sure you're very clear, and you probably want to set them up as discretionary bonuses, but be sure that you're very clear on what your commissions setup structure is and your bonus structure. So what do? I've given you these different tools to take a look at, or these different policies. Let's talk about what's available. I'd like to show you, and I will need to stop sharing my screen and reshare it here for just a sec. And let me know if y'all can't see this. So can everybody see Texas Conference for Employers?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So Texas Conference for Employers is put on by Texas Workforce Commission. I'm going to scroll down so that you can see what they generally offer. They offer such great, I mean, they just knock it out of the park as far as talking about all of the most common legal issues that apply to Texas businesses. They have 1 and 2 day conferences, and they have them in different places in Texas, including virtual. As you're going to see here, that September 6th, they're holding a virtual conference. It's sold out because, what is that, 3 days from now? And then South Padre is at the end of the month. But take a look at this page. Keep an eye on it. They usually hold conferences in different areas, different regions within Texas. And I'm sure that you will find one that's close to home, that you won't even need to spend the night, and find something that's close to home and get signed up. It will cost about $200 for the conference, but that is money that is well spent compared to what it could cost you if you don't get things right the first time. They also have lawyers that you can talk to one-on-one, and they also have a publication called Texas Business Today, and what's called Especially for Texas Employers. So let's take a look at that. Remember, I talked about how you can, let me just make sure you can see this. Okay, can you see Especially for Texas Employers, A to Z?
Yes.
So, thank you. So very good. So remember I talked about that my favorite price is $3.99. Here you go. So let's say that you want to check out whether or not you are hiring employees and contractors legally. You can go to this website, read the information about it, and then click on the checklist, and here you go. So for example, who's providing training? Are you training, or are you providing training for the new employee, or are they providing it for themselves? If you are providing training for the new employees, they're generally employees. If the person is paying for their own training, then that counts towards contractor. So you get it, how you can go through. There's 20 items on this checklist. Just go through, answer the questions one by one, and that will guide you through, okay, am I doing this right? Am I hiring contractors as contractors, hiring employees as employees? So remember how we talked about that you want to get a deduction authorization signed. So let's talk about that. You've got new hire paperwork, which is a wealth of information, pay agreements, but look here, wage deduction authorization. Let's take a look at that. This will give you information about this particular form, policy, agreement. But then look, you can literally take and copy and paste, maybe edit accordingly. If you don't provide loans to your employees, if you don't offer healthcare benefits, you can edit this accordingly. But in the state of Texas, you're not legally allowed to deduct from an employee's check unless you have your signature, their signature. You don't need to get this signed every time you have a deduction, a new deduction. If you've got the deduction covered on your checklist and you get the employees to sign it on day one, then you should be good to go. Again, free to roam about your business and get things done. So let's talk about, remember we talked about a substance abuse policy and a consent. What does that look like? So let's look at drug and alcohol policies. So this is a plain and simple written drug and alcohol or substance abuse policy, and it's something that you could easily copy and paste and edit accordingly. Remember we talked about there's 4 reasons for drug testing: pre-employment, random, etc. Those are all listed here on this policy. So if you want to come in here and take a look at this policy, you can copy and paste. Again, $3.99. Okay, now let's go back and take a look at the consent. Drug and or alcohol testing consent form. How easy is that? This particular web page will actually spell out the policies A to Z. You can click this link and actually get a hard copy mailed to you for free. You can also come up here to the far left tab and click contents. This has a wealth of information. So, you know, what I love to see is when small businesses are getting ready to hire their first employee, that they come here to this website and they glean the information what they can for free and make sure that they're getting set up on getting off on the right foot from the get-go. It is so difficult to backtrack once you figure out, oh wait, I'm not doing something properly. to initiate a whole new set of policies. So do your homework. My preference is before you hire your first employee, but even if you already have employees on board, if you don't have your policies in place, come here and take a look and go, okay, we're going to start from the beginning and we're going to get this right. If you need posters, you can come here as well. Again, print, put it on in a common area. If you've got employees that work remotely, you can provide the posters electronically. A lot of payroll services, payroll applications, they will give you an employee portal as a part of your payroll service where you can upload policies and documents. And so, you know, you use the tools that you're already paying for or at your disposal to be able to protect yourself. And then top tips. We hit several of these in the training session in the slide deck. Some of these we talked about in my prior sessions, HR Solutions and TWC Decoded. If you want to go back and watch those or go through this checklist, I would start here first and then work your way back from there. So that is one way that you can get what information that you need. So what I would like to do is share an orientation checklist that I've developed. Again, this is not, I'm not an attorney. You know, I'm happy to provide this to give you a starting point, a starting place. I have this, I've got the contractor checklist. You can either ask for them and they can be emailed to you, or you can go to the website and download them. But this is a sample orientation checklist that you can ask by email for. It's in Words that you can edit it. But this is just the basics of what you're going to need to get from your new employees. And if you notice that on the left side, there's room for a check mark, but it says the word initial. What does that mean? That means the employee's initials, not yours as the employer. And why is that? Because if anything should go awry, if your employee should file some sort of claim against you, this is your backup evidence to show that they were given the policies that applied to them. Anyone can go in and check off an orientation checklist. But if you have your employee's initial that they've received these policies, these forms, and then you have them sign and date, that creates a solid legal proof that you were providing them with the policies that protect your business. Some of these need to have a separate signature. So for example, the deduction authorization, have them initial that they received it, but actually get them to sign the authorization. Does that make sense? On the substance abuse policy, give them the policy, have them sign the consent form, and then initial the checklist. Does that make sense? So this information does contain confidential information like the Social Security. So you want to be able to collect this information in a sensible way and share this information with your new employee and your whoever processes your payroll. It's not something you're going to want to leave laying out on your desk or that's in public view, because it's got Social Security, date of birth. I've even seen people put their hourly rate, the beginning hourly rate, and it helps solidify someone's employment from the get-go. So again, I can provide this to SBDC and they will provide this to you. So I will stop sharing, go back to the core presentation. And I want to give one last thing to show you the Affordable Care Act disclaimer, just very quickly, so that you know what you're looking for. I lost my share button there for just a sec. So here we go. I'm always scared when I share. I'm like, did I lose anyone? So this is a notice of coverage options. What you can do if you don't, let's say you're a small business, you don't offer healthcare insurance, what you can do is download the model notice that the Department of Labor has provided and plug and play. So what you want to do is basically download it in Word, finish completing it, whether you offer insurance or not, and then provide that to your employees so that they know where to go to shop for health insurance if you don't provide it. So anyways, I'll stop for a moment and see if anyone has any questions.
Hi, CJ. I do have one.
Okay.
The required posters, and maybe I just didn't see where it was on some of your sharing, but do you have that where we can go and get the required posters? We often have people that are looking for that. And
Yeah.
like you said, there are many companies out there that will happily provide that to you for a nice fee.
Yes, and the thing is that these invitations to these posters, these all-in-one posters, they come with these little love letters that are like, you're out of compliance. Send us $200 to get in compliance now. So
Yeah.
let's talk about that.
And they're usually in colored envelopes, right? To make it even
Yes.
scarier.
It is. It's red all over, right? And so you're like, oh my goodness, I have to order this now. So can you see my screen where it says posters for the workplace?
Yes.
Okay. So this is how it works. Even this is a little bit confusing, but let me walk you through. So can you see me scrolling? Okay, good. Okay. So here are the required posters in Texas. Okay, very simple. A Texas payday law poster, and you can do it in English or Spanish. And then unemployment insurance. So these are the two that are that are easily downloaded. Equal employment, reporting workplace violence. Remember we talked about there's two things for workers' compensation. I want to distinguish this. There's the workers' compensation poster, but then there's a workers' compensation notice. Those are two separate things. There's a poster and then there's a notice. So just click on the links in the slide deck. Federally required posters. So this will, I'm hoping that you see, can you see the federal?
Yes.
Okay, good. So you'll see specific posters, the federal minimum wage, agricultural employees. That just depends on your industry. OSHA, OSHA is required. It's required in color. So go ahead and just click on the link and download the poster and print it out. FMLA, if you've got 50 employees, this is what you need to use. Polygraph protection. Though, go figure, right? I've never taken a polygraph in my life, but there is a law that requires all employers to have a polygraph protection. Act notice. Don't pay for that. You probably don't do polygraphs, but you got to have the poster. So you can go through this website and just click and print, click and download. And, you know, if you have questions, then people are welcome to reach out to me through the SBDC, and I'll be happy to help walk through the posters and provide clarification. But yes, don't fall for the scary letter that comes in the mail, all covered in red, saying that you need to pay a lot of money to be in compliance. You really don't.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good question. Are there any other questions? So maybe I can show you real quick what the website looks like on OSHA. Let me just navigate back to that, because that is a form that needs to be completed. Can y'all see my
Yes.
browser? Okay, cool. Emergency preparedness and response, getting started. What you do is you go through and you complete a step-by-step template. Here are the different templates and different how would you say informational packets provided for you. And then just go through and complete. What is an emergency action plan? How do I complete it? What do I need to post? Here's a sample evacuation plan. And so go through here. They also have one for fire prevention as well. So just do a search on the OSHA website, and you should be able to pull up what you need to plug and play. Again, if you have 10 or more employees, this is usually a requirement, you know, depending on your industry, but most industries are covered. So let me go back to the slide deck. Does anybody have any other questions? Concerns?
You can
Do you have
certainly
anything
send
in the
them on the
chat?
chat. Yeah.
Okay. So do we have any questions in the chat?
But we don't have any in the chat right now.
Oh, okay, okay. So let me share my slide deck and wrap up. Again, you want to make sure that you're covering, sorry, I don't want to make you nauseous, that you're considering the employment laws that are most applicable to your business. If you have fewer than 15 employees, then you really need to be taking a look at the nuts and bolts of your business in terms of contractors, hourly versus salary, making sure that you've got those posters in place. And, you know, as a small business, you don't have to worry about, you know, FMLA if you have fewer than 50 employees. If you're a federal contractor, there may be some additional regulations that you're subject to, like the Service Contract Act or the Davis-Bacon Act. So these are different things that would apply to you. But if you're signing a federal contract, you're gonna be told which laws apply to you. And at that point, you can go back and take a look, okay, what kind of policies and posters do I need to have in order to have a federal contract? So anyways, are there any other questions or concerns? I'm going to go ahead and just roll to the end. If you've got questions, my contact information is here, but please feel free to go to SBDC and they will have all the information, the slide deck, the templates, the et cetera, for you available.
Thank you so much, CJ. You shared lots of useful information for business owners. And we will be sending you out a survey at the end for you to fill out and let us know, give us feedback on your experience with this webinar. And for now, there are some upcoming webinars that we'll have tomorrow. We have Employment Law 101. The next one is on the 5th of September, your mission and how it reflects on your tax return. QuickBooks, we had one earlier today. There's one on tough conversations and other topics as listed here. Now, you see at the bottom, there's sbdc.nctc.edu. That's where you go to register for these webinars. You will get contact information. You can also schedule an appointment with advisors right here. You will find resources for small business owners. Now, I would like to take this moment to thank our funding organizations, the Small Business Administration, the State of Texas, North Texas SBDC Regional Office, and the North Central Texas College. Again, thank you all for joining today and look forward to seeing you next time. This ends our webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you all.